tell me where we could go. He took me to the good times. I just like to get out on space, you see. I like walking around, it's good for me. Could you tell me where we could go? He took me to the good times. I come to see my people. I try to see my people.
Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's panel conversation. This is going to be a very timely, very emotional, and important conversation around the human rights crisis that our nation is experiencing right now around immigration. To introduce myself, my name is Ben Molina. I lead Hispanic Leaders Group, and I'm joined by an incredible panel of individuals who are on the front lines of supporting our immigrant communities. I want to recognize their bravery and their willingness in being here today, because in a time like this, any one of us could be a target. But we persist. We persist because our existence is resistance, and our presence here today is proof that fear will not silence us. So I want to take a moment to introduce our panelists from left to right. First up, Jessica Mayo from MICA Project. We're also joined by Yvonne Ogden from Puentes de Esperanza, Valencia Alvarez from Migrantes Unidos, Yeri Castillo, who is on the Fuerza Organizing Committee with the Missouri Workers Center, and live interpreting for her will be Vanessa Pimblow with the Missouri Workers Center, and Judy McGrath from the St. Louis Rapid Response Hotline. I also want to personally thank Forward to Ferguson for giving us space and opportunity to bring this conversation to you all today. Each of our panelists will have an opportunity to speak with you directly, but first I wanted to level set, get us all on the same page. Because we know that since the start of this current presidential administration, we knew that our undocumented community would be at the crosshairs. Because this presidency was built on lies. Lies that painted undocumented immigrants as violent criminals, drug traffickers, and threats to public safety. But here's the truth. The vast majority of undocumented immigrants are none of these things. They are hardworking individuals, many with no criminal history, who pay taxes, raise families, and contribute to our communities every day. And yet, soon after this administration took office, immigration enforcement shifted into overdrive, targeting all undocumented people, not just those accused of crimes. And it didn't take long after the start of this presidency to realize that those in the crosshairs of immigration enforcement would not be limited to undocumented immigrants. Green card holders, visa holders, asylum seekers, and even US citizens have found themselves a target. In neighborhoods from Los Angeles to rural communities, ICE operations have raided homes, workplaces, and even courthouses. Families have been separated without warning. People have been detained without due process, denied medical care, and in some cases sent overseas to countries and jails they don't even call home. This has created a climate of constant surveillance and psychological warfare, one which simply walking into school, showing up to work, showing up to this conference, or seeking medical help can feel like taking a dangerous risk. This weekend, we spent some time with our counterparts in Los Angeles, and what they told us was deeply alarming. They said, Los Angeles is not a unique scenario. It is a testing zone, a model for what is to come to cities and towns all across this country. So this conversation today is about confronting all those false narratives, amplifying the voices of those most affected, and finding our path forward together, all of us in this room, in solidarity. So please join me in welcoming our first conversation today, Jessica Mayo with MICA Project. Thank you.
Hello, Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Mayo. I am a co-director and immigration attorney with the MICA project, which stands for the Migrant and Immigrant Community Action Project. We provide legal services for immigrants and their families, and we also provide social services and advocacy and a range of other activities. I am going to talk just a little bit to set the legal stage for what has been happening since January 20th. And I want to start by emphasizing that the immigration system is not broken. Although we are seeing it used in really terrible and horrific ways, that is the way it was created. While certainly ICE and this administration have broken some laws that are being challenged in court for the way they're using the law, for the most part, they are using the law as it was written and interpreting it in a different way than previous administrations have. And it's not that hard to interpret it in that way when it was written in such a xenophobic and racist manner over centuries. This administration has basically put us in checkmate. Over the years, I have generally felt that as an immigration attorney, I am able to work with my clients and we are able to find ways through the system to obtain status, not in every case, but in many of them. But at this point, the administration is eliminating many ways that people were previously able to obtain legal status. They've eliminated parole and temporary protected status. They're cutting back on the opportunity for people to obtain asylum and many other categories. It has never been the case that everyone can come and just fill out some paperwork and get legal status. There have always been very narrow categories, but they're becoming much more narrow under this administration. Congress recently, with the budget bill, added a lot of fees to immigration applications that did not previously exist. The immigration agency, USCIS, has generally been a fee-based administration agency. And so even when the federal government shuts down, USCIS keeps going because they set their fees for immigration applications at the price they need to be to fund the work. Congress decided that wasn't enough. Basically, they weaponized money in order to make it even harder for people to pay the money they need to. Some of the most significant applications affected were appeals. So if you don't agree with the judge's decision, you've always had the right to appeal. Before, those applications were $110. Now they are $1,010. Getting your first work permit here in this country used to be free because you weren't allowed to work before you had it. Now it's $550. And if you think about a whole family having to come up with that amount of money, it's just really, really difficult. As Ben mentioned, people are going to court and being arrested at court. These are things that never happened before because basically people are being discouraged from going through the channels that exist in order to pursue their case. Increased enforcement is something a lot of people don't realize is happening even here. It's not just in Los Angeles or other border cities where people are being snatched off the streets. It's happening right here at a pretty large scale. We have 3 immigration detention facilities in Missouri. Those are housed at local county jails, and they're all pretty far from either St. Louis or Kansas City, where all of the enforcement is really taking place. They're in Phelps County, which is Rolla, St. Genevieve, in Greene County, which is Springfield. It is really hard once you're detained to win your case. This is another place where the administration has been attacking the right of people to try to get bonds so that they can pursue their case while not detained. Generally, people have just had to prove that they're not a flight risk and they're not a danger to the community. But right now, there's a whole list of other requirements and eligibility restrictions that make it so that almost no one can get a bond. And when you're detained, it is really, really hard to find an attorney. Until the current administration, people in Missouri were not generally being detained unless they had committed pretty serious crimes. And even then, they weren't detained in Missouri. They were sent to Kansas or nearby states. Illinois does not have immigration detention under state law. So very few attorneys in this area have created a practice that allows you to practice detained immigration law. Immigration cases generally stretch out for years. I have cases scheduled for 2029 for cases that are not detained. But when they're detained, you have to get the whole case ready in a month or two. So it's a very different practice model. And they're just really, ever since COVID, whenever, even under Trump 1.0, they stopped detaining a lot of people, that's when a lot of attorneys stopped taking on those types of cases. Here in this area, we do not see a lot of ICE out on the street snatching people up because they look brown. What we do see is the police doing that. There is an ongoing lawsuit that has kind of paused the ability of ICE to randomly stop people in Missouri and Illinois, but the police basically can. They can say, oh, you didn't use your turn signal, or you were swerving between lanes, or whatever small little infraction they want to find. And then whenever they find out someone doesn't have a driver's license, they call ICE, and then ICE comes to pick the person up. We are seeing this happen at a really high rate. It's happening a lot. The facilities here in Missouri have been basically full. And like I said, once you are detained, it is almost impossible to get out. This administration has also done away with discretion. So in the past, we could put forward a discretionary request for ICE to let someone go or to delay their deportation, and all of those requests are being denied at this point. People whose children are incredibly sick, people who are scheduled to testify in court against an abuser, people who have other applications pending but not before the immigration court, maybe before USCIS. All of these people are being denied release and being deported as quickly as ICE can get them out. There are so many different things I could tell you about this process, but I know a lot of our other panelists are going to. But really, like I said, it feels like we're in checkmate. It feels like there are just very few legal options that we can take to get people the relief they need. We're doing a lot of Know Your Rights presentations to try and keep people out of detention, because once they're there, there's so little we can do. And that's why it's really exciting to hear about some of the organizing and people coming together to stand up against this, because our options are becoming so limited, and we have a really big challenge ahead of us.
Thank you, Jessica. And next, we'll hear from Yvonne.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yvonne Ogden, and as a undocumented immigrant, later DACA recipient, and now a permanent resident, I want to thank you all for being here today. I came to the U.S. from Mexico when I was approximately 11 years old with my parents and my little brother. We arrived here without legal status after walking through the Arizona desert and Sonora desert for approximately 9 hours. And we arrived at Belleville, Illinois. We were one of the few Hispanic around the area. Learning English while navigating bullying, fear, and uncertainty about my future. At that time, I would have never dreamed of standing here in front of you in a space like this. Little me would have never dreamed it. You see, when you grow up undocumented, your life is shaped by limitations. I became a teen mom, and I thought my future would be limited to hard labor jobs like my parents and many folks. Jobs like factory work, working restaurants, landscaping, etc. But deep down, I had a dream. I wanted to work at an office, I wanted to wear professional clothes, and I wanted to help people. In 2012, I became a DACA recipient, and for the first time, I felt the door open just a little bit. You see, DACA allowed me to work here legally, to pay taxes, and attend college, even if it meant paying every single dollar out of pocket. It was a blessing, and it gave me the opportunity that I once had felt impossible. Today, I am proud to serve as the community programs supervisor at Puentes de Esperanza, an organization that once helped my own family when we first came here. My role connects immigrants in underserved communities to vital resources such as food, legal aid, housing, access to health care, bilingual therapy services, and more. I see my younger self in many of our clients. I see my mother in the woman who walked through our doors, worry about rent, food, and their children's safety. And I see my father in the man who worked long hours but are still treated as if they don't belong. We serve in the Metro East area. On paper, our state of Illinois has protective policies like the Trust Act. But the reality for many of my clients here in the Metro East and across Southern Illinois is very different. Discrimination and racism is still alive and well. Families are turned away from food pantries, whether that be local food pantries or church-sponsored food pantries, because they don't have state ID or proof of address. A local dentist, which we once considered a partner, he was known for affordable care for those without insurance and offer cash payments. He now refuses patients unless they bring their own interpreter. A Walmart employee, not that long ago, asked one of my clients for proof of citizenship just to buy a fishing license. Children who are born American citizens or who have grown here their entire lives are now, and we're afraid to go to school at the beginning of this year, at the beginning of the current administration, because of the atmosphere of fear around them. That horrible feeling that unfortunately many of us are too familiar with. The feeling of knowing that they might not see their parents at the end of the school day. You see, friends, these are not isolated incidents. They are reminders that in our community, safety and dignity are not guaranteed. This is why solidarity matters. And solidarity can look different for everyone. It's not always a protest sign or a headline. Sometimes it's simply speaking up when you see something wrong. Sometimes it could be just smiling at someone who doesn't look like you or speak like you, so they know that they're seen. Sometimes it's just asking, how can I help? Because here's the truth, friends. If we're not safe, no one is safe. And I'm so privileged to stand here today in a space I've never dreamed I'd have to say this. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. And together, we can make our communities a better place for everyone. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Yvonne. Next up, we have Valencia.
Thank you both for both of your talks. This work is really heavy, and we're carrying a lot, so I just want to thank you. I'm here today. My name is Valencia, as an advocate for the and underdocumented community here in St. Louis. Many of those who I advocate for are asylum seekers, or that's the label that we put on them. I work specifically with a group called Migrantes Unidos, which is a support group for about 130, 150 Latin American asylum seekers. Many of them have arrived within the last 5 to 6 years to our St. Louis community. For those I am in community with, and for many immigrants in general, they have been under digital surveillance, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. They've been under digital surveillance through ICE for many years. They do this while they're waiting for their final hearing of their immigration process, a process that takes up to 7 years and maybe more now that we have so many people in the system. And just to give you an idea, the chance that anyone wins their asylum case right now is maybe about 5 to 7%. So let me just reword this. Over 90% of asylum cases right now are being denied in Kansas City. So those coming here for a better life are forced into a system that requires them to check in to the ICE office, attend multiple court hearings, many in Kansas City, some in Chicago, and some in other places of the country because we don't have an immigration court here in St. Louis. And sometimes they're unfortunately enrolled into ISAP, which is the Intensive Supervision Appearance Program. These are all things that our government asks of them for a chance, a very small chance, to be able to stay here in the United States. And this is after years of already making those roots here in St. Louis and in other places. For those who are enrolled in ISAP, it can mean different things. For some, it's being forced to wear ankle monitors. It means being under home arrest the same day every week, for example. Yearly or monthly check-ins, depending on the discretion of the officer at the office, being tracked through facial recognition and GPS tracking apps, in other words, SmartLink, which is what it's called. It means living every day knowing ICE is watching you and can act whenever they feel like it, because as we know, these same ICE check-ins are now being used to target individuals for deportation. Anyone who does advocacy work knows part of it is fighting the narratives the harmful narratives that we hear. These narratives don't exactly match what we see on the ground. And one of those is there's an incorrect assumption that without this surveillance and requiring people to go through these processes, immigrants would not show up to immigration hearings. And we know that this isn't true. There are billions of dollars invested into this system based on that assumption. Billions of dollars. I just looked it up before this. It's like $409 billion, depending on which part of the system you're looking in. All of this is invested into a system that harms people and functions as an extension of the deportation machine. As part of MU, members share their experience on ISAP and give each other advice on how to go through the program. If they successfully graduated from the program, they share their experiences on what worked, what helped, and what parts of the experience stayed with them. We know ankle monitors cause bruising and swelling and pain right away. And this is not unique to the immigrant experience, but ankle monitors they're not a good way to surveil people. They burn skin, emit electric shocks, and it's typical for immigrants to be forced to wear them for many years. This leads to an altered gait in some cases. One of our members, who is 60 years old, has shared how even after years of having the ankle monitor removed, she still felt pain in her leg and lower back. So these are long-term effects on people's health. One of our members shared that she gave birth with an ankle monitor on because the ISAP agent asked for proof that she was 8 months pregnant. because seeing her belly wasn't enough. And we won't get into how hard it is for immigrants to access timely health care and medical documentation. This year, one of our members was told by their ISAP caseworker that being taken off SmartLink, again, the GPS tracking app, was not ideal for them because it would leave ICE with no way to keep them safe. There would be no way to keep them safe if they weren't being constantly surveilled. That story really stuck with me because the way she told me this story was framed in a way that she also believed and accepted that message. Right, so part of this work is educating those I work with and people we work with on the systems of power and control and how this harm gaslights us into thinking that it's good for us. This is good for you. This alternative to detention is so much better. And these are the same people that hear a knock on the door and feel their heart rate pound as they try to decide whether or not to check who is at their door, knowing that it could be the last time they open that door, the last time they see their family. And for some, it's mostly a false alarm, or they're looking for someone else, or someone that no longer lives there. But that possibility that they come back always exists, as long as ICE exists. And that reality is even harder when you're constantly being watched and tracked. Sometimes I and all of us here work with people preparing for their appointments, their ICE check-ins and ISAP. We ask questions like, do you have a power of attorney? Do your US citizen kids have passports? Do you have any interactions with the police, even if it's just a speeding ticket or something small? This is all in preparation for the worst case scenario, detention and deportation. And most of them do, some of them don't. We plan according to those answers, but the process itself is unmanageable. Recently, I talked to someone who had all these things in place. A power of attorney, which for those of you who don't know is a legal and notarized document that gives someone the power to make decisions on behalf of yourself for your kids, if you're not here, detained or deported. It's always a hard conversation to have, especially when you're trying to survive this system, and denial is one of your survival tactics. Anyway, this person had applied for their kid's passport, and it arrived in the mail one day. She showed it to her daughter. And she had already had this conversation with her 5-year-old daughter about the worst case scenario. And when her daughter saw the passport, she started crying. This passport represented separation to her. It meant separation from her mom. And she felt an immense sense of sadness and fear that her mom would be taken away from her in that moment. This is also a story that sticks with me because family separation is so horrible. And no one should ever have to go through that. But what we are putting our children through is just cruel. Like Yvonne, I see myself in these kids, and my family immigrated here not too long ago. Someone said in their session yesterday, that could be us, talking about their family and trying to convince them to care about what's happening. Our system has gotten exponentially less humane and less dignified and more cruel and more profitable in the last 2 to 3 decades. For any child of an immigrant, this could easily be us, and it could be us now. But even before January of this year, people were bullied into staying home, too afraid to go to work, see family, or even walk outside. And I remember one member sharing how she was marked absent from her home visit through ISAP because she was out taking the trash when the agent arrived. And he saw her, but still marked her absent. And these are all ways to justify the intensity of the surveillance and put blame on people for simply trying to live their life while they're going through the immigration process. Another member shared how she was fired from her job because she worked in construction and couldn't leave the 17-mile radius that she was restricted to, or she'd get an immediate call from her agent asking, "Where are you?" or "I see you're outside of the allowed radius," and she got tired of that type of abuse and control. So people lose their jobs because of this type of surveillance. It's hard to find housing as it is as an immigrant, but when landlords see someone with an ankle monitor, that stigma also makes it so that people can't get a lease. The stigma also exists within the immigrant community and the general public, so it's not just people in power. But in general, I will say that the system is weaponizing the willingness to comply with our rules to detain and deport Black and brown immigrants. We know that at the beginning of June in St. Louis, I started sending out mass texts to people to come in for unscheduled appointments tomorrow or on this day this week to review their case. And those in the ISAP program also got similar texts with the pretext of removing their ankle monitor, for example. So some go thinking everything is fine with their case and they haven't done anything wrong, or there's a possibility that they'll be under less surveillance, and then what happens? They get detained. Sometimes their cars are left to get impounded, and when a family member goes to get it out of impound, the impound manager calls ICE, and then they get detained. What happens if they don't comply? They don't go to their check-ins or court hearings. Then they get an order of deportation. So there's no right option. If they had work authorization and get an order of deportation that gets canceled, if they don't comply with any part of this abusive, violent system, they're ordered deported. But if they do comply, then they have the possibility of being detained and deported. I always struggle with this question of, like, what are they supposed to do? I don't know what to tell them. Because this type of control is violence. This type of surveillance increases risk for detention. This is not safety for them, this is not safety for you, and it's not safety for me. I attended Janice's session yesterday on abolition, and the entire time I was just thinking about the connections between what they see in their work and what I see in mine, and it's the same system. We are fighting for abolition. We should not see surveillance as an alternative to detention. This is reformist and just recreates that same harm that we're seeing. We need a new system. We need community care. We need immigration and rehabilitation system that focuses on dignity and centers our humanity. And none of us have the answers, but I think we just need to dream a little bit more. We all know this story very well. Recently, a memo came out encouraging ICE officers to escalate surveillance efforts, so we'll soon see an increase in ankle monitor use, despite immigration advocates speaking out against the harmful effects. So I just want to let you all know that it will only get worse, unfortunately. Yeah, sorry to end it on such a grim note, but that's the reality we're working in. Thank you.
Thank you, Valencia. Next, we'll hear from Yeti and Vanessa, who will be interpreting for her. Yeti, please join us.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Soy Yeri Castillo,
I'm Yeri Castillo,
líder del Comité Fuerza con el Centro de Trabajadores de Missouri.
a leader with Fuerza Organizing Committee at Missouri Worker Center.
He vivido en San Charles por más de 7 años.
I have lived in St. Charles for 7 years.
Yo vine a los Estados Unidos en el 2018.
I came to the United States in 2018.
En ese tiempo había estallado una guerra civil en mi país, Nicaragua.
At that time, a civil war had broken out in my homeland, Nicaragua.
El gobierno de Daniel Ortega quería recortar la seguridad social, así que nuestras personas mayores salieron a las calles a protestar.
President Ortega's administration was trying to cut Social Security, so our elders took to the streets in protest.
Pronto se sumaron muchos aliados jóvenes como yo.
Soon they were joined by many young allies. I got involved too.
Me puse la camiseta que llevaban las personas mayores y también me involucré.
I wore the shirt the elderly protesters wore, and I went out there as well.
Iba a la oficina del Seguro Social para exigir que escucharan sus demandas de un trato digno por parte del Estado.
I would go to the Social Security office to urge them to hear our elders' demands for dignified treatment by the state.
Las protestas se volvieron violentas.
The protests became violent.
El gobierno mandó al Ejército Nacional, nos tiraron bombas y gases lacrimógenos. Personas que yo conocía fueron secuestradas, encarceladas y desaparecidas por el gobierno.
The protests became violent. The government sent in the National Army. They threw bombs and gases at us. People I knew were kidnapped, jailed, and disappeared by the government.
En ese tiempo yo trabajaba para el Ministerio de la Familia.
At the time, I was working for Government Family Services.
Al presidente no le gustó que alguien de su propia administración protestara sus acciones.
The president didn't like that somebody who worked for his administration was protesting his actions,
Así que me pusieron una diana en la espalda.
which put a target on my back.
Al final, otro de mis mismos compañeros, ansiosos por alinearse con la administración, me delataron a mí y a otras personas, me despidieron y huí del país, dejando a mi familia sin saber cuándo volvería.
Eventually, other civil servants in the government who were eager to fall in line snitched on me and others involved. I was fired and fled the country, leaving my family behind without knowing when I might see them again.
Si no hubiera hecho eso, habría enfrentado cárcel por traición a la patria.
Had I not, I would have faced prison time for treason.
Quisiera decir que la vida ha sido más fácil desde entonces, pero no es así.
I wish I could say life has been easier since then, but the truth is it hasn't been.
Ustedes tal vez se acordarán de mí. En septiembre del año pasado estuve en solidaridad con los trabajadores de Amazon en todo San Luis.
Last September, I was in solidarity with Amazon workers across St. Louis.
Yo también trabajé en almacenes de la zona. Pasé 4 años limpiando en Amazon para su contratista KBS.
I had also worked at warehouses in the area, spending 4 years cleaning at Amazon for their contractor KBS.
La avaricia de Amazon empuja a contratistas como KBS a tener poco personal y sobrecargar a los conserjes, igual que hacen con las y los trabajadores de las warehouses.
Amazon's greed drives contractors like KBS to understaff and overwork janitors, just like they do with warehouse workers.
Trabajamos el doble de nuestras horas normales, pero KBS se negó a pagarnos y encima teníamos a una gerente racista.
We worked double our normal hours, but KBS refused to pay us. Then,
Al
on top
inicio-
of that, there was our racist manager.
Ella no nos saludaba.
At first, she wouldn't greet us.
Decía, no entiendo por qué están aquí los centroamericanos, delante de mí y de mi amiga María Elizabeth.
She
Nos
said,
tiraba
"I don't-"
cosas al piso para que las recogiéramos.
Perdón, Mary. She said, I don't understand why Central Americans are here in front of me and my friend Elizabeth. She'd throw things on the ground for us to pick up.
Un día, Elizabeth y yo llegamos a nuestro turno. La gerente nos despidió sin explicación. Le agarró la camisa a mi amiga María Elizabeth y la empujó. Nos llamó ladronas, ladronas de tiempo. Y Amazon y nos amenazó con llamar al ICE.
One day, Elizabeth and I arrived for our shift. The manager fired us without explanation. She grabbed Elizabeth's shirt and pushed her, calling us thieves, accusing us of stealing time. She threatened to call ICE.
En ese momento lamenté mucho haber venido a este país.
I regretted 1,000 times that day having come to this country.
Trabajar en Amazon me hizo sentir sin poder. Por eso me inspiró cuando escuché a muchas y muchos de mis compañeros dirigirse, organizarse para cambiar las cosas.
Working at Amazon made me feel powerless. That's why I was inspired to hear of so many of my coworkers organizing for change.
Vi lo duro que trabajan para mantener a sus familias.
I saw how hard they worked just to care for their families.
Ahora trabajo con mi sobrino.
Now I work with my nephew.
Hacemos construcción, pintura, remodelación de casas. Gano más de lo que ganaba en Amazon y nadie nos presiona ni nos trata mal en el trabajo. Es duro, pero gratificante. Me siento orgullosa de lo que hago ahora, pero también tiene sus grandes retos.
We do construction, painting, and remodel houses. I make more than I did working at Amazon, and no one pressures us or treats us badly on the job. It's hard work, but it's gratifying. I feel good about the work I do now, but it comes with its challenges.
No tengo un seguro médico.
I don't have health insurance.
En el trabajo siempre estoy con miedo. Si me caigo, no puedo simplemente ir a un hospital. Entonces temo por mi vida. Si me duele algo, intento resolverlo yo sola o llamo a un contacto médico en Nicaragua para pedir algún consejo.
I'm always worried at work because if I fall on the job, I can't just go to the hospital, so I fear for my death. If I have an ache or pain, I try to figure it out on my own, what to do, or call a medical contact I have in Nicaragua for advice.
También tengo que hacer malabares con los pagos. Renta, seguro del carro, la comida, los medicamentos de Elizabeth. Nuestro carro en este momento está descompuesto Y repararlo no es una opción. Ahora, arreglar la transmisión costaría miles de dólares.
On top of that, I have to juggle bill payments, rent, car insurance, food, payments for Elizabeth's medication. Our car broke down and repairing it isn't an option right now because fixing the transmission would cost thousands of dollars.
El trabajo también me exige ir a Home Depot por materiales.
The job also requires visits to Home Depot for supplies.
Habrán visto ustedes en las noticias que está haciendo redadas en muchos Home Depots del país, incluso aquí en Missouri.
You may have seen in the news that ICE has been conducting raids at many Home Depots in the country, including here in Missouri,
Apuntando a trabajadores como yo.
targeting day laborers like me.
Últimamente, nuestro jefe recoge los materiales por nosotros porque le preocupa nuestra seguridad.
Lately, our boss has been picking up supplies for us because he worries about our safety.
A pesar de tener licencia, IT y mi permiso de trabajo, no me siento protegida por nada, porque ser hispana en Estados Unidos hoy se trata como si fuera un delito.
Despite having my license, TIN number, and worker permit, I don't feel protected at all because just being Hispanic in America right now is treated like a crime.
A mi sobrino lo detuvo ICE a principio de este año.
My nephew was detained by ICE earlier this year.
A veces siento que no escapé de las condiciones de miedo que vivía en Nicaragua.
It sometimes doesn't feel like I've truly fled the scary conditions I was dealing with in Nicaragua.
Cuando aquí también conozco gente que ha sido secuestrada, encarcelada y desaparecida por este gobierno.
When people I know here are also being kidnapped, jailed, and disappeared by the government.
Mi familia me llama todos los días para saber cómo estoy.
My family calls every day to check on me.
Me piden que me quede en casa, que no salga a trabajar, que pida las cosas a domicilio.
They tell me to stay inside to have anything we need delivered.
Pero vivir en las sombras no es vida.
But living in the shadows is no life at all.
Y estoy cansada de sentirme extranjera en este país por no tener papeles.
And I'm tired of feeling like a stranger in this country just because I don't have papers.
Por eso me uní al Comité de Fuerza.
That's why I joined the Fuerza Organizing Committee.
Somos migrantes que queremos contar nuestras historias,
We are immigrants wanting to tell our stories,
alzar nuestras voces y exigir el respeto y los derechos que merecemos,
raise our voices and demand the respect and rights we deserve,
como todas y todos los ciudadanos americanos aquí.
just like every American citizen here today.
Queremos una vida mejor para nosotros y para nuestras familias.
We want a better life for ourselves and our families.
Luchamos por la igualdad de derechos en el trabajo.
We are fighting for equal rights at work,
Luchamos por un alto a las separaciones de familias,
an end to family separations,
por una vida justa y accesible a la ciudadanía,
a just and accessible pathway to citizenship,
por seguridad y respeto sin importar cómo seamos o cómo nos veamos o de dónde vengamos.
and safety and respect no matter what we look like or where we come from.
Hoy,
Today,
trabajemos todos,
let's all work
trabajemos
together.
en la construcción,
We're working in the construction industry,
en servicios de comidas
in food service,
o como empacadores o recolectores o ubicadores,
or at Amazon as a packer or a picker or stower or cleaner.
Todos peleamos por el derecho a ser vistos como seres humanos.
We are all fighting for our rights to be seen as full humans.
La mayoría de mis compañeros son estadounidenses.
Most of my coworkers are American.
Antes pensaban que el presidente Donald Trump lo estaba haciendo muy bien.
They used to think President Trump was doing a good job.
Pero al conocerme vieron que soy una persona honesta, responsable y amable.
Having gotten to know me, they saw I'm an honest, responsible, kind person.
Alguien que trabaja duro y tiene sueños.
Someone who works hard and has dreams.
Al trabajar juntos, mis compañeros empezaron a verme como un ser humano completo, alguien a quien le tienen mucho cariño.
Working together has allowed my coworkers to see me as a full human, someone they care about.
Eso me da esperanza.
That gives me hope.
Y por eso cuento mi historia.
And that's why I'm telling my story.
Si más personas
If more people,
afroamericanas, blancas, morenas,
if more people, black, white, and brown,
supieran quiénes realmente somos,
knew who we were,
si vieran que tenemos mucho más en común de lo que los políticos racistas y las corporaciones nos hacen creer,
saw that we all have much more in common than racist politicians and corporations would have us believe,
Podríamos unirnos para conquistar una vida para todas las personas trabajadoras en Missouri y en todo Estados Unidos.
We could come together to win a better life for all workers in Missouri and America.
Es momento ahora.
The time is now.
Unámonos como trabajadores de Missouri.
So let's unite as Missouri workers and citizens.
Organicemos nuestras fuerzas en números y tomemos acciones audaces para ganar la vida que todos merecemos.
Let's organize our strength in numbers and take bold action to win the kind of life we all deserve.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeti. This is my first time hearing Yeti's story. Sorry, my English and Spanish are mixing up now. Muchas gracias por compartir tu historia y por estar en las líneas de enfrente peleando por los derechos de los trabajadores. Thank you for being at the front lines fighting for the rights of our workers.
Gracias a ustedes por darnos la oportunidad.
Thank you all for giving us the opportunity.
Next up, we'll have Judy.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy McGrath. I'm here today with, as a member of the St. Louis Rapid Response Coalition. I help coordinate the hotline, the Rapid Response Hotline, which functions kind of with two main ways. One, there's an option to press 1 if you want to, if a caller wants to report enforcement activity, or to press 2 to speak with an operator and access information and support following enforcement activity. Most of our callers press 2, and most of those who press 2 are calling about someone they know has been detained. Oftentimes, they're looking for help trying to figure out where this person is located, which we can help with, or sometimes they know where the person is located, but are having difficulty navigating the very complex and not so user-friendly telecommunications apps to be able to communicate with their person. Or also, most of the callers are very interested in accessing legal information and representation if possible. I would say a lot of times callers are very hopeful about, if we just can get the right attorney, we'll be able to get our person out on bond, and then we can move forward from there. And as Jessica explained, almost no one is eligible for bond at this point, and so it's a very difficult process to kind of arrive at that understanding. And so we really, as operators, we offered information, but we also try, it's very important to us that we walk with people in the process that can be very discouraging and overwhelming, and also just with awful options. And so in addition to the information, we also just walk with people and try to support them as they're facing the trauma of family separation, the reality that someone they love has been the victim of racial profiling, also understanding, realizing that they've lost the income of the detained person. Many of our callers are the caregiver that stays at home, and the person who's detained may have been the sole breadwinner. We have a handful of callers who have babies that are 1, 2, 3 months old, and so now the caregiver that's at home is trying to figure out, how do I pay the rent? How do we put food on the table? And the reality has been totally disrupted. And it makes for really difficult decisions for families thinking about what is the future for their family. If one of the members is going to be returning to their country, do we all go? Especially for families with mixed status, maybe one of the members is pursuing asylum, or one of the family members was born in the United States and has citizenship. So sometimes what makes the most logistical sense isn't necessarily what makes the most sense for the unity of the family. And so it just puts people in a very difficult position to make decisions, impossible decisions for their family and their family's unity and well-being. I would say one thing that's been notable as we're taking calls is the sort of some of the callers make comments that may reflect sort of an internalized racism. Things like, it's because of the bad immigrants that now all of us have to suffer, or why did so many immigrants have to come? There's too many of us, and now they don't want us here. But maybe not making, and actually, when Valencia mentioned about harmful narratives, I think some of the impacted community have absorbed the harmful narratives of this is about getting rid of dangerous people and getting rid of criminals, when in reality it's about racism and xenophobia. So one of the other things that we are very happy as a coalition to be able to offer to people that have been impacted by enforcement is access to legal information. We have a team of volunteer attorneys who are able to conduct an intake. Unfortunately, they're not able to represent people who are detained or take their case, but what we can do is have a meeting with a detained person, have that person be able to tell their story, give the information about their individual situation, and then get information and advice about what their options are, or if there are options at all. And as I'm sure many of you know, for immigration, people don't have a right to a public defender, and while they're being held in these jails that immigration contracts with, they don't have access to information about even why they're being held, or what their options are, or how they communicate what they want with an immigration official. And so I would say these opportunities these meetings with the volunteer attorneys are kind of one of the only ways for people to know what their options are. And so while those answers are often not what people would want to hear, at least it's, in my opinion, I hope that it's better than them sitting in the dark and wondering what the reality is for them. And through these intakes, we've learned that most people, I would say, are being stopped by traffic stops like Jessica described. You were swerving, you were driving too close to the person in front of you, or some local police don't even give an answer, a reason at all. And then people are detained and held with an immigration hold, and that gives immigration 48 hours to come and retrieve the person and book them. Most of these people do not have any criminal history. Many of them have never had any contact with ICE. Many of them have been here for multiple years, for extended periods of time, and have had no prior issue. And this one traffic stop is the first time that they're running into problems. Many people we're finding are in complete shock of why they've even been detained. Many people are saying, I have my employment authorization, I have my social security card, I got my driver's license, I've been going to my check-ins, I've been going to my court dates, I've complied with everything that's been expected of me, there must be some mistake. And unfortunately, because of the questionable way that the laws are being interpreted now, someone who previously would have been able to be out and working and supporting their family and contributing to the economy while they're going through the process of asylum, now they're considered to be detainable. And so they're expected to remain detained through the course of their fighting their asylum case, even if, even if what? Okay, and then there's also, as Jessica described, a total, very, very, even there were a few legal options before, but now we're finding most people have no legal options at all. And even the cases that seemed strong and we thought might have a chance, or the attorneys thought there might be a chance, even those are being denied. And even strong asylum cases, because of the way the judges are ruling for detained cases, many of those, even when someone has a legitimate asylum claim and a legitimate fear to return to their country, those are being denied as well. Meanwhile, people can't stop living their lives. They have to continue to going to work. They have to continue getting groceries. They have to pump gas, always knowing, though, that they're vulnerable, that risk is there at any moment. Some people are particularly vulnerable. We saw one Friday, there were 8 roofing trucks were stopped, and everyone that was in the vehicle was detained. As Yeti mentioned, like at Home Depot, so people that are being targeted in geographical areas or by sort of their connection to stereotypes. And even just driving while brown makes someone vulnerable. And so people are reducing their activity. They're not engaging in social functions. Maybe some people are not going to religious affiliated events. And I know firsthand it's been a pretty boring summer for a number of kids whose parents say, sorry, I can't take you to the playground. I'm sorry, we're not going on a family vacation. And that's just about safety. Many families are engaging in safety planning, like Valencia mentioned, getting powers of attorney in place, kind of having those difficult conversations about the what if, getting passports for their children. And so a lot of this is leading, to isolation, and the isolation is compounding the fear and really negatively impacting people's mental and emotional well-being. We've also seen a lot of scammers who are offering legal solutions and really preying upon people's desperation to find answers or a way to be safe. I spoke with one caller who said, in retrospect, I should have known that was a scam, but I wanted it to be true, and so I paid the money. So what can we do as a community to support? There are lots of opportunities to volunteer, so if you're interested, feel free to reach out to St. Louis Rapid Response Coalition, and we can connect you with a number of organizations and opportunities for volunteering. Reach out to people in your community who may be affected by this, friends, neighbors, people at your kids' school, people at your place of worship, and just say, I know this is a really difficult time for people right now. I know you might not be impacted directly, or maybe someone in your family is. Let me know if I can pick up groceries for you. Let me know if I can wait at the bus stop with your kids as well as mine, so you don't have to be out here. Let me know if I can take your kids to the playground. Also, advocate, both with your representatives, but also by speaking this truth, what you've heard today, in your communities, in your circles, and let people know the narrative is not correct. It's not just criminals who are being targeted. In fact, it's largely people who have no criminal history, no prior problems with immigration, and they're being literally plucked off the street and then given no legal recourse, no options to be able to stay, being separated from their families and forced to choose deportation, oftentimes when they have legitimate fear and danger of returning to their country. So talk to your people. Thank you all. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Judy. And the coalition that has put together this helpline has been instrumental in making sure that our communities are safe. So I want to pull out my phone and make sure you all have this phone number. So if you want to save the helpline number, it is, here I am, egg on my face. I thought I had it saved. Someone help me.
I should have it memorized, and I don't.
No worries, we will get it. So before we wrap up, I just want to give everybody one more opportunity. Last call, what is it that you want our audience to take away? What is your call to action? What is your hopes and dreams for St. Louis? Just one quick round, because we're over time.
There are so many things I want to say. I think the big thing is just to realize that this is happening here. It is happening a lot, and it is not happening in a just way, and that people need to be involved in some form of advocacy and solidarity so that we can come together as a community and show people that we believe they deserve dignity.
One thing that I would like for all of you to take away this afternoon is, once again, to just offer that smile. Try to advocate in your own way, even if it's just sharing information that you have heard today. Because the reality is, these stories are not isolated. These are everyday stories from your neighbors, your co-workers, kids that go to school with your kids. Thank you.
I would say my biggest message is that we really do need each other right now. St. Louis is going through a lot, especially after the tornado and right now with immigration enforcement and all the other things that we need each other for. So do what you can to break that isolation that all of us are clearly feeling. But more than anything, start to be active, whether that's starting conversations or volunteering.
Sí, la misma pregunta. Podemos hacer para ir.
Creo que todos estamos en la misma lucha, todos estamos peleando por nuestros derechos, por que nuestros derechos sean respetados como seres humanos, no como personas inmigrantes o personas afroamericanas o personas de alguna otra etnia. No deberíamos de tener distinción alguna. Nosotros, los inmigrantes latinoamericanos o de cualquier otro país europeo, no necesitamos que alguien venga y nos ofrezca un trabajo o alguien hable por nosotros. En mi opinión, pienso que con solo que se levanten, salgan de sus casas y se unan a nosotros en la lucha que tenemos ahorita, eso sería de mucha ayuda. Cuando nos miren que estamos protestando en la calle o que estamos yendo a la oficina del gobierno de Donald Trump para exigir nuestros derechos, entonces lo único que pediríamos de las organizaciones o de las personas en particular es que se paren con nosotros y estén ahí apoyándonos. Eso sería más que grandioso. Pero también podríamos comunicarnos o pedir el apoyo o la dirección de Missouri Trabajadores, missouriworker.org, para que ellos les den a las organizaciones la dirección o la fecha de cuándo tendremos eventos para que podamos sentirnos apoyados por ustedes. También quería agregar un poquito más a esta pregunta y es: ¿qué pueden hacer las organizaciones para apoyar a los inmigrantes en esta lucha? Simplemente podemos usar nuestro poder, usar el poder que tienen, usar la voz que tienen en ese momento para ayudarnos. Nada más eso, no pedimos nada más, solo que seamos empáticos con la situación que estamos pasando en este momento.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Very briefly.
Okay. We're all in the fight for our lives. Our democracy is under attack. No matter where you're from, how you look, how you love, our rights are all under attack. So we ask to use the institutional power you do have, the power of your position, not to help us, to be in solidarity with us. Follow moworkers.org, and next time we are in the streets protesting or in our halls of government standing up for our rights, show up with us. We don't need people to speak for us, we need people to stand with us.
Use your voice. We can't look away. Even though it's hard to see, we can't look away. The alternative is not, we can't not look away. We can't look away.
Thank you. And the Rapid Response Helpline, 314-370-7080. So please have that saved on your phone, 314-370-7080. Thank you, Jessica, Yvonne, Valencia, Yeri, Vanessa, y Judy. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Thank you, everybody.
I just gotta get out most days, you see. I like walking around, it's good for me. Could you tell me where we could go eat? Take me to the good times. I just gotta get out most days, you see. I like walking around, it's good for me. Could you tell me where we could go eat? Take me to the